Lena had always loved walking alone in quiet places. Crowded streets made her tired, but forests made her feel calm. That morning, she started her hike just after sunrise, when the air was cool and the ground was still soft from night dew. She carried a small bag with water, food, and a notebook where she liked to write her thoughts. The trail she chose was not popular. Most hikers preferred wide paths with clear signs and resting spots. Lena liked the ones that felt forgotten. She believed old trails carried stories inside them. At the start of the hill, she noticed something strange. The wooden sign was broken and leaning to one side. The words were faded, and only a few letters could still be read. She checked her phone map to confirm the route. The map showed nothing. No trail. No mark. Just empty green space. Lena frowned but did not turn back. She had come to escape noise, not to follow rules. She told herself that old trails often disappeared from maps. With a deep breath, she stepped forward and continued walking. As she climbed higher, the forest grew thicker. Tall trees blocked most of the sunlight, leaving the path covered in shadows. The air felt cooler, heavier, like it was holding its breath. Her footsteps sounded louder than usual, even though she walked softly. After some time, she realized something else was missing. There were no birds. No insects. No rustling leaves. The silence felt deep and strange. Lena slowed down. Her instincts told her to stay alert. Still, curiosity pulled her forward. She had always believed that important moments came when fear and curiosity met. The path twisted sharply, then leveled out. That was when she smelled it. Old wood mixed with oil and iron. It was not unpleasant, just unexpected. She followed the smell until the trees opened into a small clearing. At first, she did not understand what she was seeing. Something large rested among the moss and fallen leaves. Its shape was long and curved. Then realization hit her. It was a boat. A wooden boat, weathered but strong, sitting deep inside the forest where no water existed. The sight made her heart beat faster. Boats belonged to rivers or lakes, not hills and trees. As she stepped closer, she noticed something even more surprising. The boat was not empty. A small cabin had been built into it. The walls were part of the boat itself. The roof was carefully placed, sloping gently to one side. Round windows were cut into the wood, smooth and clean. Someone had spent a long time building this. This was not a joke or an art project. It was a home. Lena walked around the boat slowly. Her fingers brushed the wooden surface. The wood felt warm, not cracked or broken. It had been cared for. A narrow stone path led from the trees to the cabin door. Each stone was placed by hand. Some were worn down, as if many feet had passed over them. Someone had lived here for a long time. That thought made Lena uneasy. She was alone, deep in the forest, standing outside a stranger's home. She considered leaving. Then she saw the door. It was slightly open. Lena froze. The forest seemed to grow even quieter. She listened carefully. No movement. No voices. She called out softly, asking if anyone was there. Her voice echoed strangely and then disappeared. After a moment, she pushed the door open a little more. The inside of the cabin surprised her. It was clean and organized. Light entered through the round windows, lighting up the small space. Shelves were built into the walls. They held books, tools, jars of dried plants, and folded cloth. Everything had a place. In the corner, a small table stood beside a simple chair. On the table lay a notebook, open to a page filled with neat handwriting. Lena stepped inside carefully. The floor creaked under her boots. She felt like she had stepped into someone's life without permission. Then her eyes moved to the center of the cabin. What she saw made her stop breathing. There was a large wooden chest placed carefully in the middle of the room. It was old but polished. Carved symbols covered its surface, each one different. This was not storage for tools or food. This chest was important. Lena knelt beside it without touching it. She felt a strange pull, like the chest was calling to her. Her heart beat fast, but not from fear. From recognition. She did not understand why, but she felt certain of one thing. This cabin was not found by accident. Someone had built it with a purpose. Someone had waited. Lena stood slowly, her mind racing with questions. Who built this place? Why hide it in the forest? Why a boat? And most of all, why did it feel like she was meant to find it? Outside, the wind finally moved through the trees. Leaves rustled like whispers. Lena looked back at the door, knowing she could still walk away. But she did not. Because deep inside, she felt that opening that chest would change everything she thought she knew about her life. Lena stood still in the center of the cabin, listening to her own breathing. The wooden chest rested in front of her, silent but powerful. It felt like the heart of the boat, placed there for a reason. She told herself not to touch it. She reminded herself that this place belonged to someone else. Still, her feet moved closer on their own. The chest was heavier than it looked. The carvings on its surface were detailed and careful. Some symbols looked like waves. Others looked like trees, stars, and simple shapes that repeated in patterns. Lena traced one symbol with her finger. The wood felt smooth, almost warm. A strange calm spread through her chest. She noticed something carved near the lock. A small name. Lena froze. It was her name. Not written boldly, but carved gently, like it had always been there. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. She stepped back, shaking her head in disbelief. There was no way this was real. No one here could know her. She looked around the cabin again, hoping to find an explanation. The notebook on the table caught her attention. She picked it up slowly and began to read. The handwriting was neat and steady. The words felt thoughtful, like they were written by someone patient. The first page spoke about the forest. About choosing silence over noise. About leaving the water behind but never forgetting it. As she turned the pages, her hands began to tremble. The writer described moments from a life that felt too familiar. A childhood near a river. A love for long walks alone. A feeling of never fully belonging anywhere. These were Lena's memories. She closed the notebook, her breath short and fast. Her mind searched for answers but found none. Then she heard something outside. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Lena turned toward the door, her body tense. She thought about hiding, but there was nowhere to go. The door creaked open wider. An older man stood in the doorway. His hair was gray and pulled back. His clothes were simple and clean, worn by years of use. His eyes were calm, not surprised to see her. He smiled softly. She asked who he was, her voice barely steady. He did not answer right away. Instead, he stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He told her she was not lost. He told her she was right on time. Those words made her chest tighten. She asked him how he knew her name. The man looked at the chest, then at her. He said some paths exist only for certain people. He said some places wait. Lena felt anger rise inside her. She demanded clear answers. The man nodded, as if he expected that. He told her the boat had once belonged to her grandfather, a man she had never met. Her mother rarely spoke about him, only that he had left and never returned. The man explained that her grandfather had been a builder and a wanderer. He believed that life should flow like water, but sometimes water must rest. When he grew old, he brought the boat to the forest piece by piece. He built the cabin as a place to hold truth, not things. The chest, the man said, was made to carry a story forward. Lena listened in silence. Her anger softened into confusion. She asked why her name was carved there. The man said her grandfather believed the right person would feel the pull. Not by blood alone, but by spirit. He told her the chest would open only for someone who needed what was inside. Lena looked at the chest again. Her hands shook as she reached for the lock. It opened easily. Inside were papers, photographs, and a small metal box. She picked up a photo first. It showed a younger version of her mother standing beside a river. Next to her stood a man who looked strangely familiar. Another photo showed the boat on water, long before it became a cabin. Tears filled Lena's eyes. These were pieces of a life she never knew existed. She opened the metal box carefully. Inside lay a key and a folded letter. The letter was written to her. Not by name at first, but by feeling. It spoke about finding your place. About listening when the world grows quiet. About choosing a path, even when it makes no sense to others. By the time she finished reading, tears ran freely down her face. The man placed a hand on the table and told her his role was finished. He said he had only watched and protected the cabin. He said the choice now belonged to her. Lena asked what choice. He pointed toward the forest and then toward the chest. She could leave with the truth and return to her old life. Or she could stay and learn why this place had waited for her. The wind outside grew stronger. The trees swayed gently, like they were listening. Lena held the key tightly in her hand. She felt fear, sadness, and hope all at once. For the first time in years, she did not feel lost. She looked at the man, and then at the door. Her decision was forming, even before she spoke. And deep inside, she knew that whatever she chose next would change not just her path, but the meaning of her life. Lena did not answer the man right away. She stood quietly inside the cabin, holding the small key in her hand. The air felt different now, lighter but deeper at the same time. Outside, the forest no longer felt silent. It felt awake. The man told her she did not need to decide immediately. He said the cabin respected time and never rushed anyone. He showed her where food was stored and where fresh water flowed from a hidden pipe behind the trees. That night, Lena stayed. She slept on a narrow bed built into the side of the boat. The wood creaked softly with the wind. Moonlight passed through the round window and rested on the walls. For the first time in years, her sleep was deep and peaceful. When morning came, she woke with the sound of birds. Sunlight filled the cabin with warm color. She sat up slowly, unsure if the day before had been real. The chest was still there. The notebook still lay open on the table. It was real. Lena stepped outside. The forest looked brighter than before. She noticed details she had missed earlier. Wild flowers near the stones. Fresh footprints on the path. The man was gone. At first, fear touched her heart. Then she remembered his calm voice. She trusted that he would return when needed. Lena spent the day exploring the cabin. She read more notebooks. Each one held thoughts written over many years. Her grandfather wrote about leaving behind expectations. About choosing quiet work over loud success. About building something meaningful, even if no one ever saw it. She felt like she was learning from someone she had lost before ever knowing. Days passed. Lena stopped counting them. She gathered firewood, cooked simple meals, and walked the nearby trails. Each walk showed her something new. A fallen tree that formed a bridge. A clear pool of water hidden under stones. She felt useful. She felt present. One afternoon, she opened the metal box again. She studied the key carefully. It did not look ordinary. It felt heavier than it should. She searched the cabin until she found a locked hatch beneath the floor. Her heart beat fast as she placed the key inside. The hatch opened with a soft sound. Beneath it was a narrow space filled with rolled papers and maps. Some showed rivers. Some showed forests. Some showed paths that no longer existed on modern maps. These were plans. Not just places but journeys. Lena understood then. Her grandfather had not only built a home. He had built a guide for people who felt lost. The cabin was a pause. A place to listen before moving forward. That night, the man returned. He brought fresh bread and smiled when he saw her standing taller than before. She told him she wanted to understand more. He nodded and said understanding came through living, not rushing. He told her the cabin had helped others before. Not many. Only those who truly needed it. Lena asked if she was expected to stay forever. The man shook his head. He said the cabin never trapped anyone. It only revealed what was already inside them. As weeks passed, Lena changed. Her thoughts slowed. Her worries lost their sharp edges. She began writing in her own notebook. She wrote about fear, about pressure, about how silence could be kind. One evening, she followed a trail she had not noticed before. It led to a high ridge overlooking the forest. From there, she could see far beyond the trees. The world felt wide again. She realized something important. She did not need to escape life. She needed to choose how to live it. When she returned, the man was waiting by the cabin. He asked her what she felt. She told him she felt ready. Ready for what? He asked. She said ready to carry the cabin forward, not as a place, but as an idea. A reminder that people could step away, listen, and return stronger. The man smiled with pride. He said her grandfather believed she would understand. That night, Lena packed her bag. She did not feel sad. She felt complete. Before leaving, she placed her notebook inside the chest. She added her own words to the story. She closed the chest gently and locked it. The forest seemed to breathe around her. As she stepped onto the trail, Lena looked back once more. The boat cabin stood quietly, waiting. Not for her. For the next soul who needed it. And as she walked forward, Lena knew her life was no longer divided into before and after. It had become something whole. Something chosen. Lena stepped out of the forest just before sunset. The sky glowed soft orange and pale blue, like the day was gently closing its eyes. Her boots touched the familiar gravel path near the parking area. Cars stood quietly, waiting for their owners to return. For a moment, she felt strange standing there. The world she had left weeks ago looked the same, yet she felt different inside. She took a deep breath and walked forward. The drive back to town felt longer than usual. She noticed small details she once ignored. Fields changing color. Birds resting on wires. The calm rhythm of ordinary life. When she reached her small apartment, Lena unlocked the door and stepped inside. Nothing had moved. The same chair by the window. The same cup on the counter. The same quiet space that once felt empty. Now it felt open. She placed her bag down and sat on the floor, letting the silence surround her. Not the heavy silence she once feared. This silence felt kind. That night, she slept deeply. No restless thoughts. No rushing worries. The next morning, Lena began to notice changes in herself. She woke early without an alarm. She made breakfast slowly. She wrote in her notebook before checking her phone. Messages waited for her. Work emails. Missed calls. Questions about where she had gone. She did not rush to answer. She read them calmly, choosing which ones deserved her energy. Days passed. Lena returned to work, but not the same way as before. She no longer felt the need to explain herself to everyone. She spoke with clarity. She listened more than she talked. People noticed. Her manager asked if she was planning to leave. She smiled and said she was planning to live better. In the evenings, Lena walked through nearby parks. She watched families, runners, and children playing. She felt connected to them, not distant. One evening, she received a letter in the mail. No return address. Her name written neatly on the front. Her heart beat faster as she opened it. Inside was a simple note. It said the cabin was quiet again. It said the forest was patient. She smiled. Weeks later, Lena made a decision. She left her city job and took work that allowed her to travel and choose her time. She began helping others find balance in their lives. not by telling them what to do, by listening. She shared stories of rest, reflection, and courage, never mentioning the cabin directly. Some things were meant to be felt, not explained. One day, a woman approached her after a small talk she gave at a local center. The woman looked tired, lost, and unsure. She asked Lena how she learned to slow down. Lena smiled gently and said she followed a trail that was not on the map. The woman nodded, like she understood more than words could say. That night, Lena dreamed of the forest. The boat cabin stood quietly beneath the stars. The chest rested at its center, holding stories that were still growing. She woke with a sense of peace. Seasons changed. Leaves fell. Snow covered the ground. Spring returned. Lena kept walking her path, guided not by fear but by trust. Then one morning, she felt it. The pull. Not strong. Not urgent. Just a gentle reminder. She packed a small bag and drove back toward the forest. The trail welcomed her like an old friend. When she reached the clearing, the cabin stood just as she remembered. Strong. Quiet. Waiting. She stepped inside and felt the warmth of the space. The chest was untouched. The notebooks rested safely on the shelves. She added one more page to her own notebook. She wrote about returning to the world and finding peace within it. As she closed the chest, Lena understood her role fully. She was not the keeper of the cabin. She was the bridge between silence and life. Outside, the wind moved through the trees like a soft song. Lena stepped back onto the trail, knowing her journey was not ending. It was expanding. And somewhere, someone else would soon feel the pull. The pull returned quietly, like a soft tap on the shoulder. Lena did not rush this time. She listened. She finished her work for the week, packed light, and left before dawn. The road felt familiar now, not like an escape but like a return to balance. As she drove, the sky slowly brightened, and her thoughts stayed calm. When she reached the forest, the air welcomed her. The trail waited exactly where it always had. No sign. No map. Just the path. Lena walked with steady steps. Her body remembered the way even before her mind did. The trees opened into the clearing, and there it was. The boat cabin stood strong and quiet. Time had passed, but nothing felt forgotten. She stepped inside and set her bag down. Sunlight streamed through the round windows, warming the wooden walls. The cabin felt alive, like it recognized her presence. Lena checked the chest. It was still locked. Still patient. She sat at the table and opened her notebook. She wrote about the people she had met since leaving the forest. People who felt tired, stuck, or unsure. People who only needed permission to pause. As she wrote, she heard footsteps outside. Her heart stayed calm. The door opened slowly, and a young man stepped inside. His shoulders were tense. His eyes carried the weight of too many questions. He stopped when he saw Lena. She smiled gently and welcomed him in. He told her he had followed the trail without knowing why. He said the forest felt like it was calling him. He said he almost turned back many times. Lena nodded. She told him the path was kind to those who listened. They sat quietly for a moment. The cabin held the silence without pressure. The young man noticed the chest. He asked what it was. Lena did not answer directly. She asked him how he felt. He said lost. Not broken. Just unsure of where he belonged. Lena stood and placed the key on the table. She told him the cabin helped people hear themselves more clearly. She asked if he was ready to listen. He nodded. Lena stepped back and let him approach the chest. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside, he found words, maps, and stories from many lives. Not instructions. Not answers. Reflections. Tears filled his eyes as he read. Not from sadness, but from relief. He finally understood that he was not late in life. He was right on time. Lena watched quietly, knowing her role was complete. She was not there to guide or lead, only to witness. When the young man finished reading, he closed the chest carefully. He thanked Lena, his voice steady now. She smiled and said the forest had done the real work. Before leaving, Lena added one last note to the chest. She wrote about trust, about choosing presence over noise, about how paths appear when we are ready to walk them. She locked the chest and placed the key inside a small wooden box. As she stepped outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. The cabin stood peaceful, carrying its growing collection of human courage. Lena walked away without looking back. She did not need to. The trail guided her out of the forest and back into the world. Life continued. Lena kept traveling, listening, and sharing space with others. She never claimed to have answers. She only reminded people that silence could be a teacher. Years passed. One day, Lena stood near a river, watching the water flow. She smiled, remembering her grandfather and the boat that became a home. She understood now. Life was not about staying still or running away. It was about knowing when to rest and when to move. As the sun set, Lena walked along the riverbank, feeling grateful. The story had not ended. It had multiplied. Somewhere deep in the forest, the boat cabin waited. Not empty. Not forgotten. Waiting for the next person who needed to remember who they were. And so the path continued.